Right. So it all depends on the boy's upbringing.
Something that they would like, how they should treat, how they should handle those situations.
Not all the parents are doing it because the topic of sexuality is very sensitive.
Exactly.
Getting married so soon must have a big challenge on you from a physical point of view, from an intimacy point of view.
Or all of us are on the same page always on the terms of intimacy.
The girl will really feel safe. I will get judged, or whether my partner will just see that she is only looking after a
her
physical
needs,
and a lust and all those things.
You have PCOD. They are not telling anything except for that one particular term that you have PCOD. They are not guiding. I don't think
most of them, like 50% of them, even had 10 on 10 stress levels. And those girls who are having stress levels,
wearing wired bras or very tight from the waist short.
Parents should be comfortable enough to talk among themselves as partners.
Yeah, right.
And then they can teach it to their kids. No? So this is one of my initiatives which I do. I educate the parents on how to talk on sexuality. Okay, Yashasvi. Actually, Gunjan told me that you got recently married and you are from Udaipur coming all the way to Aurangabad. So how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, so it's just been 1 year and 6 months I've been married here. And it was like complete a roller coaster ride because I come from a very different Rajasthani background. And somewhere here, my in-laws, they have a bit of typical Maharashtrian touch in all the rituals and all. So it was like a roller coaster thing for me. But with time, I am getting used to a lot of things.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm still in the process of adjusting right now.
So what did you felt actually, how the marriage is, like you have such a large of a cultural difference.
Yeah.
Like I'll share mine with you. I am from a Maharashtrian Brahmin family and married to a Marwadi. So it does had a lot of differences for me. Like seem like it's for your state, like you're changing actually the geographical locations.
Exactly.
And so do the cultures will change according to that. So what do you feel the difference over here and compared to Rajasthan over there?
So basically, if I talk about like basic needs, like if I talk about the personality wise, if I talk, so it was more about schedule firstly, and then it was food habits, cultural differences, like थोड़ा सा ऐसे उसमें वो भी था कि they follow some other spirit gods and all of that. So there are a lot of differences if I talk on the deeper level.
Yeah.
But if I keep it to a very subtle on the table points, the main for me was food.
I know.
Because coming from a Rajasthani family, we are a complete foodie. We need masala, घर का बना हुआ घी, घर का बना हुआ दूध, दही, all of that in all our meals.
Right.
तो मेरे लिए वो बहुत ऐसा अप डाउन पूरा ऐसे रिवर्सिबल सिचुएशन हो गई थी क्योंकि यहाँ पे ऐसा कुछ है नहीं सिस्टम की मतलब हर चीज़ में से घी चाहिए बहुत मसाले चाहिए इन माई इन लॉ साइड we have members in our family who like eat very थोड़ा सा कम स्पाइसी खाना बहुत ज़्यादा स्पाइसी नहीं चाहिए बहुत कम तेल में तो वो मेरे लिए बहुत ज़्यादा ड्रिफ्ट था एक थोड़ा सा which I still regret somewhere.
So how old are you, Yashasvi?
I am 25.
Okay. So at the age of 25 getting married and then at the age of 24 or 23 and a half only you must have got married.
Yeah. 24 so you can
that
say.
Was quite a young age to get married, right? Because most of the girls who are like over here in my circle, they all are still studying.
Oh.
So how did you took that on you, getting married so early?
So it was not very impulsive decision, I would say, that I felt that I am that mature and I can spend my life with one person and my entire life. So I randomly like went to my parents and I thought ki I am mentally in that state that I can commit for a lifelong thing like marriage to someone, so I should get married. So they were like, okay, if you are okay and if you are willing to get married, so they were like, okay, we'll look for rishtas for you and we'll make your biodata and all. So that's how it all started. And after me saying these words to them, uske baad, I guess, 1 mahine baad to I got as a engaged and all of that. It was very quick.
It was very quick.
Yeah.
So, what were the major queries? Like getting married so soon must have a big challenge on you from a physical point of view, from an intimacy point of view, getting exposed to it. So, what were your challenges?
Yeah, definitely. See, from where we come nowadays, we have a lot of knowledge. Like moreover, we have a lot of expectations that our intimate life with our partner should be like this. We see movies, we see Hollywood movies, they have somewhere raised our bars of expectations. And we were also exposed to this word called fantasy. So these fantasy things have raised the bar to the next level only. When I see myself being a 25-year-old girl who is married at this age, so I feel there's a lot to explore in intimacy with the partner. But I don't think that all of our partners or all of us are on the same page always on the terms of intimacy.
See, what happens when there is a subject called intimacy, it's actually a very vast subject.
Yeah, right.
So, when you are into a relationship, when you are into a committed relationship, and the point of intimacy, when it starts coming, because as soon as you are into a relationship, intimacy will develop. It's
Yeah,
not
we
a
have
thing
to, yes.
which is there at a point.
It is not something which is pre-existing. We have to develop it with the chemistry and everything.
And intimacy is not just on a physical level.
Right.
Intimacy can be on your spiritual
Emotional,
level,
yeah.
on your emotional level,
Definitely.
on your social level, on your entrepreneurial levels, on your dispute levels. Like
Yeah,
how comfortably you can navigate through your disputes. That also
emotions or anger issues or everything like that.
So that also comes into intimacy.
True.
So when it comes to physical intimacy, most of the girls in these particular age group, they have this concept of having everything into perfect. Falling everything has to be very perfect. That's because the expectations, as we have already said, because of TV and movies we have. But then they should understand that directly moving into an emotional intimacy or a physical intimacy, the boys need to understand is that for a girl, the emotional intimacy comes first than the physical intimacy.
Exactly. I think, this is the point where most of the boys, or I would say men, lack, because they don't relate intimacy with emotional subject.
Right.
For them, intimacy is something just limited to physical stuff only.
And that is there because they are meant like that. Their structure, their mental structure is like that. So what we need to actually understand when we are going into a committed relationship, especially the boys, that intimacy or a physical closeness will come, but after they are emotionally attached to you, when the girl will really feel safe emotionally, mentally, physically, that time she will start getting opened up with them. So that patience has to be there with the couple to let the couple flow, let the relationship flow into it, and then come to a point where there is actually that trust and respect for each other, and then you are becoming intimate. So
exactly. I mean, I would totally agree when you said that intimacy is something which is not pre-existing.
Yeah.
So intimacy is something which you have to build, and when we talk about intimacy, it's not just that physical intimacy. So I will talk about my experience. So okay, I'm a girl. I had a lot of expectations about my intimate life, but when I was growing with my partner in our marriage, so I realized ki I can't keep expectations and I can't put my partner under the pressure of my expectations or the pressure of the fantasies which I desire.
Right.
I can convey him the message ki these are my fantasies, let's explore it. But I cannot put that pressure, or I cannot judge him while he's denying to do it all.
See, that is where the consent and understanding comes into it. See, sometimes what happens, we are not very open to communicate.
Exactly.
And as per the studies, scientific studies which has happened at, this is one of the study wherein the psychosexual life of married couples was studied at Harvard University. And in 70% of the couples, they found that open communication resolves the conflicts, and they can go into a longer duration of marriages. Their marriages
Exactly,
last
yes.
long with very less conflict. So openness in the communication is, I think, the key to
Exactly.
communicate what you exactly want and what you don't want. And then second, over here comes the emotional intimacy, wherein you are ready to accept that no, or you're ready to handle that
agree.
no.
Yes.
So that is also very important in a relationship.
So I would just like to ask you one thing here, like what would you suggest? Like how should we communicate with our partners more transparently?
See, communication is when you have a partner and you are into a good relationship. See, a relationship which is a very healthy relationship will always make you feel comfortable and open. If there is something lacking into this particular concept of a healthy relationship, then actually you should try in a very subtle voice, in a very subtle tone, in a very crisp, clear and non-violent language.
Okay.
Like you cannot blame, you cannot put it.
Yeah, you cannot. Yeah, I totally get what you're trying to say.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so it should be a non-violent language. Not even you should be very aware about your body language while you are speaking that.
Yes, true.
Because many a times we can just speak on we focus on our words.
Yeah.
But then we don't focus on our facial expressions, on our bodily expressions. So when it is a non-violent communication, even into your mind, I think that will get communicated the best.
Okay.
Along with that, it should be honest and with conviction. It should be honest with conviction and non-violent. So I think this communication, if happens, anybody would get that particular thing.
Okay. So I just had few of my doubts in my mind because since this is the very first time I'm opening to someone about all the intimacy point after being married. So I just had one question that how do we expose our physical desires, our physical needs to our partners in a transparent way? Because sometimes when we try to communicate, I don't think they are at that level that they understand. And maybe there comes a point where we are lacking in explaining them.
Yeah, because see, this is a point where there is a very thin line that whether I will get judged or whether my partner will just see that she is only looking after a physical and a lust and all those things. And this can happen. This is a very common question or very common problem, not only in young age, but in the females of all ages. In fact, when you grow up, when it's like around 45 nearing menopause, the desire of female, it starts increasing. And then that also becomes difficult for men to understand. So what I think, first of all, the sexuality education, like educating yourself about what sexuality is. I'm not talking about the physical act of sex.
Okay.
I'm talking about the concept of sexuality. And when you will go deeper into the concept of sexuality, you will understand that even in the Indian scriptures like Kama Sutra, female desire is given its own importance.
Yeah, I have seen
unless the female is satisfied into a relationship, she may not be able to open up to a next level.
I know, I felt that thing.
Yeah. So whenever there is a lack of desire or desire discrepancy, like one partner is feeling so and another is not, that time a subtle communication that you want it, and just leave that particular shame of being judged for some time, because ultimately you are talking it to your own partner into a committed relationship. So I don't think that is very much necessary, because see, ultimately it's like your food.
I know that is something which our body genuinely it's demanding from us. And so we have to go to our partner like, this is what we are feeling and this is our peak time. So this is what we want.
Mostly you can tell them into the cues, like you are into your periods, and then after so many days, like around your ovulation time, that is a time when females are mostly sexually active or mostly desiring to have sex. So you can just tell your partner ki these are the dates, and just giving a clue.
Just giving you a hint that you have to be prepared for something which my body is demanding and which indirectly I am asking from you. Yeah.
So I think these kind of cues, and into a scientific way, and then talking to your partner openly, like again with honesty and conviction, I think that should solve the problem.
So this was from my side. What do you think? Do you have any suggestions from the male perspective? Like, would you like to suggest something that they would like, how they should treat, how they should handle those situations?
Actually, it's about the upbringing and how the boy is brought up as a man. So when you are saying that he's a man and he's a gentleman, then most of the times it happens that even the silence of a lady will give him the cues what she is going through.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
I think men should be more emotionally sensitive, try to be more emotionally sensitive and little more aware towards the partner's needs and
Exactly.
desires.
Yeah. The sense of understanding, I feel, is very important.
Very important.
When you're trying to build a relationship, be it physical, emotional,
Yeah.
or on an intimate level.
And overall, if you have seen the generational shift that has happened, boys in these generations, they are quite open and quite available emotionally compared to the previous generations.
Yes. So, matlab, these guys have made, if I talk about my husband, so he has made like it very convenient for me to go to him and brag about my body, brag
Yeah.
about my needs, my wants, my intimate perspectives, my
Yes.
fantasies. So he had somewhere created that safe boundary
Space,
for me.
yeah.
Exactly. Where I can like go and talk to him that
Right,
ye
right.
feel ho raha hai and I want to do this, that.
Right. So it all depends on the boy's upbringing. Now, to share with you, my son is 11 years old, and I have trained him from the age of 7 and 8 that how the girls can feel. Now, what are the changes that may happen into her body? If some girl from your class has started menstruating suddenly, she has some stains on her skirts or something like that, then he understands that there is something wrong and he should not mock about it.
Exactly.
So I think when they were small, if mothers are teaching them this, the respect towards females and all these things, the small changes that will happen. So I think they will become quite understanding when they will grow up.
But we go in the past and we look. So earlier, mothers themselves were not comfortable about talking their
Yeah.
periods, or they were not comfortable in communicating this thing with their family's men.
Yes.
So
yes.
when I was a little girl, so I used to also notice my grandparents, my grandmother, my mom, my aunts. I come from a very big joint family. So we all used to live together in one house. So I saw that they were not using the direct terms.
Yeah.
They had some their own lines or words. The particular words they used to use, that there were some words. So I think वो prepare ही नहीं कर रहे हैं
next generation to face it. And that is what is lacking into our systems. The sexuality education is totally lacking. And not only lacking, it has been made or presented like a taboo.
Yeah, exactly. So they were very uncomfortable while talking about it.
Yeah.
They used to like they were not supposed to come in front of the male, the aged males in the family. And even if we talk about the younger boys, they were not ready to tell them that what these women are actually going through that particular time of the month.
Yes.
So I think that is somewhere our society is lacking. They are not readily or but openly they're not talking about it. And still, if we see today, you are educating your son, that's a different part because you come from that background and your son needs to know this. You have made it mandatory that my son should know it.
Yes.
But right now, I hardly believe that not all the parents are doing it.
Yeah, I know that not all the parents are doing it because the topic of sexuality is very sensitive.
Exactly.
First of all, the parents should be comfortable enough to talk among themselves as partners.
Yeah, right.
And then they can teach it to their kids. No? So this is one of my initiatives which I do. I educate the parents on how to talk on sexuality. So this is one of the programs which we normally run for the parent age group, like for the parents of different age groups.
So basically you're counseling the parents.
Yeah, but because that is where we need to do it.
I think,
directly going to schools and talking to children.
True.
I mean, if they are not getting it from their homes, what is the use?
They need to get it right from a right place first.
Yeah.
No matter how much you're teaching them outside the school, but eventually they are going to their homes. But if their parents won't have that much of knowledge, कोई मतलब ही नहीं है उनका उस चीज
and
पे
then they will
जानने
take
का.
it very wrongly कि ऐसे क्या स्कूल में सिखा दिया.
हाँ.
So they should first get informed and educated about how to talk about sexuality to their kids.
Yeah, how to
Because
communicate about it.
this will not only improve the kids' confidence, but this will bridge and this will bond a parent and kid relationship also.
Exactly, definitely.
That relationship can go to a next level of intimacy. Like, intimacy, as we spoke, it's not just
Yeah,
about the
it's-
partners.
yeah, exactly.
So the
It's not
parent
just the
and
physical.
child intimacy is also equally important for a good life or whatever. So I think that will get improved if the parents are educated sexually.
I also have like few more concerns. So if we talk about lifestyle, if I see my lifestyle, so I had few concerns that our diet, first of all,
Diet.
yeah, our diet, our lifestyle is so much associated with terms like PCOD and PCOS. Like I am
Right.
totally fed up with the terms because I myself I have been victimized as a patient of PCOD, which is not a very big deal eventually, but those who know it what PCOD is, it's not for them. But for me it is. Because I feel like I have not done that much mismatch with my lifestyle that I should face this. So like what do you think on the PCOD,
See,
PCOS
first
part?
of all, I think PCO is little more on the overestimation side in India. See, only doing a sonography and just telling there are more number of eggs into the ovaries, so this is a PCO. No, this is not like that. Even when you are doing a sonography and diagnosing somebody as PCOD or PCOS, there are few criterias which should be followed and satisfied into that particular scan to diagnose yourself as PCO or PCOD. Second, you have to surely check your hormone levels. If your
Okay.
hormone levels are falling into normal place by and large, then this not necessarily mean a PCOD, because PCOD and PCOS, they are like big diagnosis. It's like diabetes.
Oh,
I think diagnosing somebody with PCOS or PCOD should be very meticulous and very responsible a diagnosis, because that can affect the girl's overall lifestyle and life changes and
Exactly,
everything.
yeah.
And the mental status, because then she will get stressed out with it and that will again aggravate the problem.
okay.
So what I think diagnosing PCO is little much has become more of a fashion than actually it can be.
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
I think as a clinician, we should be responsible in labeling somebody PCOD or PCOS. Before that, I think we should give the client or the patient a 6 to 8 months time to modify on a small levels of their lifestyle and diet. And the hormonal imbalance can go sometime because of stress or because of erratic sleep or because of maybe changes in diet or changes in the routine. That can also affect the period dates sometimes. So just getting an irregular period will not point always towards having a PCOD.
Okay.
So girls should also need to understand this.
I mean, every time if you miss a period, you mean to say that you can't associate it with just PCOD or
Yes,
PCOS?
yes.
Because what happened in my case was that when I went to the doctor, so they did some sonography, and after sonography, they saw my reports and they told ki you have PCOD. They are not telling anything except for that one particular term that you have PCOD. They are not guiding. I don't think they are not doing it properly. According to me, what I have felt is ki they are just suggesting supplements, they're just suggesting medicines and bol rahe ki bas lifestyle sudharo. But you should, I feel they should talk on a deeper level ki you can get your hormones tested and you try this, you do this. But I personally feel is there is a lack of personal guidance in my case. Matlab, for
Right.
whosoever gynec I am visiting, I am consulting, I feel they should do it in a more detailed way. They are just doing it very briefly.
Yeah. See, most of the time what happens, this is not doctor's fault also, because see, when you are going to a gynecologist or an obstetrician, truly speaking, we as a gynecologist, if there is somebody into a labor or somebody who is pregnant and delivering, and that is always there into the IPD setup, 1 or 2 patients are always there who are delivering.
Yeah.
So that is a very big stress, because then gynecologist has to go to 4 lives together, like one
Yeah.
mother and a baby, the another mother and a baby. And when such time a patient like PCOS or a patient like just having menstrual irregularities, which is not an emergency, which she can deal little later also, if such kind of a patient comes into OPD, though she wants to give that patient more time and more attention, but at that particular time, because of somebody else needs her more, she has to go there first.
Okay.
So it is
Yeah.
not always that doctor has not given you a personal attention. That is not like that. It could be because somebody else is needing her more than what.
Yeah, completely relatable.
Yeah.
Yes, can understand.
So this could have happened in your case. Second, see, I had done a research in my post-graduation days. I had done a research on girls of age group 14 to 17 who were specifically planning to study for competitive exams like
Okay.
the medical
ISRs.
entrance and engineering entrance and all those things. And what research I did in those, that how many of them have menstrual irregularities and why they can be there. And then the intervention we did was we tried to make those girls relax for half an hour when they were coming for their classes.
Okay.
So this was all we interviewed all of them. We had made some forms in that we had given them options. How are your periods? How what complaints you're having into your periods, and how much hours you are studying, what you are studying, are you having stress, and what is your stress level like on the scale of 1 to 10. And most of these girls, they reported that their stress level was more towards 7 and 8 number. Most of them, like 50% of them, even had 10 on 10 stress levels. And those girls who are having stress levels more than 7, they automatically had some problems with their periods.
Okay.
So we should understand that periods are regulated through brain again.
Okay.
Because we have a gland called pituitary gland, which will secrete certain hormones. These hormones will go and stimulate the ovaries, which will make the eggs and some more few hormones.
Okay.
And eventually, if there is no fertilization, like there is no consummation of marriage, the girl will get into periods.
Oh.
The lining of the endometrium will shed off. So now if somebody is into so much of stress, now what is stress? Stress is basically increase in levels of cortisol and adrenaline-like hormones into your brain.
Okay.
So your pituitary is not surrounded with the healthy atmosphere or healthy surrounding which it needs to secrete proper amount of hormones. So when your this axis or your hypothalamus and your brain axis get disturbed because of stress, that will definitely affect your menstrual cycles. So when we, for 3 months continuously, we gave them relaxation exercises, out of the 100% of those who were having menstrual irregularities, 40% showed drastic improvements into their periods in terms of regularity and the amount of bleeding they were having.
Wow.
Even for a young girl like of your age, now you're married maybe early. So you might have some subconscious stresses that are going on related to many things. Those could be affecting your hormonal status, and that could be affecting your menses and menstrual cycles.
Okay.
So that is one of the major reasons why in today's time, the young generation is so much under stress. If you will understand, they have their careers, the competition is increasing. In any field they are going, there is competition.
I agree.
So they are really stressed out with these things, and what is lacking with them is emotional intelligence. See, howsoever academically intelligent you are, if you lack in emotional intelligence, surely you are lacking somewhere in your life, because then you are lacking on the practical point of view, the practicality, the pragmatism of life, because you don't have an emotional intelligence with
Intelligence, yeah. Also, I read somewhere our styling things, like our styling aspect, like wearing wired bras or very tight from the waist shorts or something, they also have influence on our body physically.
As per the study, wearing a wired bra per se is not giving rise to any other things. Like people are these days very worried that wearing a wired bra will cause me breast cancer and all that.
Exactly, yeah.
But there is nothing like this so far into the scientific literature.
Okay.
Yes, but what is affecting wearing a wired bra is because the wires are very tightly snuggled with your chest. The lymphatic drainage. See, breast has a very dense lymphatic drainage.
Yeah, I've heard of
So
it, yeah.
that will get blocked.
Oh.
And if that is getting blocked, whatever the lymphatic system is not able to function properly around the breast, that will affect surely on the health of that particular girl. Second, what is there, because it's very tight, the wires are very hard. It can cause pain, it can cause
yeah.
marks, and it can actually cause a lot of discomfort to the girl apart from just the looks. So I think you should find out why you're wearing that particular bra, the wired bra. Like whether your concern is looseness of your breast, or whether your concern is sagging breast, or whether your concern is the size of the breast.
Exactly.
And nowadays we have wonderful technologies with which we can take care of that just wearing a bra, rather than just taking care of your body into a more subtler and a gentler way.
I know. We get all those red
Yeah.
marks all over the chest
And
those
all.
of those
Yes.
wires.
Yes. So more than that, I think see why there will be, like, if we are talking on breast, what are the major concerns? Like one is the minimizer bra. Those who are feeling like they are having really big breasts, they are using the minimizer bra.
Okay.
But if medically you will get evaluated yourself, the size of your breast, if it is affecting you to a level that you are not able to walk, you are not able to stand straight, it is causing you backache, something like that, then I think going for an operative correction for it is a better idea than just harming yourself wearing that minimizer bra and making it tight. It's like just stuffing into the cotton when the bag is full.
Bag is full, exactly.
So why to harm yourself into that particular way when you have better technologies? And nowadays these surgeries, they are really very safe. They have become safe. We have good surgeons around us. So I think we should go for that. Second reason why somebody will be wearing a plunge-in bra or a wired bra is the sagging of the breast. Like they feel that their breasts are not at a good level as it should be, and they are going down. So in these kind of cases, you should actually see if you have lost on weight.
Okay.
Or you have, like some people might have actually done a weight reduction program. So if it is that case, if it is a case wherein you have a child, you have breastfed your child, and then you are feeling this sagginess, then again we should be going for something which is little more permanent than just using a bra which is making you uncomfortable. So the procedures like mastopexy, wherein these kind of loose breasts, we are just repositioning them in a proper way.
Okay.
In a very minor surgical setup, it's a daycare surgery. You can just come to the hospital in the morning and go back at the night. So these procedures should be considered rather than just harming yourself with something which is not going to be even permanent. So I think these are better options than just using different kinds of bra and making yourself uncomfortable.
I totally get it. So again, if I come back to the topic of styling, because I'm asking so much because I myself, I'm a stylist and a fashion designer. So I have like few questions regarding it. So I have heard that heels have some sort of impact on our pelvic bone or our hip movement. Is it true?
Yes, obviously. Because see, the way your spine is designed, it is designed into a certain way to bear your weight on your foot.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So when you're changing the angle of your foot wearing heels, and specifically the pencil heels with the long elevation, that definitely impacts your posture, your muscular system and your skeletal system also. Like with each inch of the heel which is increasing, there is a pelvic tilt of more than 3 degrees from the ground level.
Oh my God.
So the more you are increasing your heel range, the more is your pelvis getting tilted, which is not a very good idea to begin with. Okay. So even if you want to wear heels, I would suggest wearing Pencil heels is not bad, but the time should be limited.
Yeah.
Second, if you are very keen of wearing heels, go for wedges, which is having a uniform platform.
Yeah,
It is
the
not
platforms. Yes, yes.
increasing or decreasing the elevation of your foot. So, if you're very keen about it, go for platform heels or wedges or something, some styling like that. That is the point of the discussion, that wearing pencil heels for some time is okay.
Is okay, yeah.
But after that, you should always take care of your feet with the help of good exercises and strengthening them.
Yeah, the some way or the other, how we style is affecting our physical body.
Yeah, it is affecting your musculoskeletal system.
Okay.
A lot. Like wearing shapewears. Now, a lot of girls are very fond of wearing shapewears to hide their tummies and all.
Yeah, to make them look more thinner or
and-
fit body fit they need.
Yes. So, what is happening when you are wearing a shapewear? Like in initial days in Europe, they used to wear these corsets.
Yeah, corset. They used to like tight it. Unbreathable.
Yeah, unbreathable. That is the same thing what the shapewears are doing today. So wearing them for a very long time, they are first of all squeezing your organs.
Yeah,
your
they
liver
constrict your body. Like you
Yeah.
cannot move, you cannot make a movement.
Yeah, you cannot even breathe properly.
I know.
And then that is affecting a lot on your pelvic organs, especially your uterus and ovaries. So wearing even shapewears for a small time, you're going out for some party or something like that, it's okay, but not for a regular long time use.
Okay.
So I think that should also be taken care of. It's just like heels is affecting your pelvis. The shapewears are also affecting your organs.
So in total, everything that you wear or everything that you style yourself with, somewhere or the other, these things have an impact on your body or muscle situation.
Yes, definitely.
I also want to ask, what are your thoughts on lingerie? Like, if we see nowadays, there are a lot of other materials which are used except for cotton. I personally prefer cotton because that is my like comfort zone.
Yeah.
But I see people using mesh and many other fabrics. They're using net, soft net, and all of that. So, do you think that somewhere affects our physique, our body?
Yes, definitely. See what happens. First of all, understand that your genital area is not an area which is applicable or which is breathing itself a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always an area which is actually protected from all sides by our body parts. And there, if you are using a underwear which is a synthetic material or a nylon or something like that, it further reduces the breathability of that particular area.
Okay.
It becomes more and more warm because see, your body folds are always warmer than your hands and feet, right?
Exactly, definitely.
So the warmer the body part, the less breathable it is, the more suffocating it is. This is very conducive for the fungi and the bacteria over there to grow. So if we are wearing the lingeries which are not cotton, which are not of breathable fabric, and we are not taking care of changing it multiple times a day, and we are not giving a airy time to our organs, then definitely that is going to cause a lot of infections over there into the intimate areas.
Oh.
And these infections can further lead to folliculitis of the hair over there. It can lead to hyperpigmentation. Then your labias become darker and darker. And then you have continuous itch, or you may have some problems with your urine. And then it is overall affecting your health to a great extent. So I think selecting an underwear for like nowadays girls are very keen while for taking that fancy underwears like thongs and all while going for an honeymoon or something like that. That is okay for some time, but I think for a long term regular use,
we should try avoiding it.
Yeah, we should try avoiding it. So fashion is okay at fashion's place, but health is more important, and we should
you can't like relate fashion to your everyday lifestyle, or you can't relate it to your body's needs.
Yeah, it should not be compromised. Basically, just for a sake of fashion, your body needs and your comfort should not be compromised. Because see, my personal understanding of fashion is every human being has their own fashion.
Yeah, everybody like needs to look perfect. They want that.
And they want that comfort. When you're more comfortable into your own skin, I think you are the most fashionable person into that.
I totally agree with that, yeah.
So whatever you feel comfortable in, you should go with that.
I also feel comfort should definitely come first,
Yeah.
because getting your physical presence, you're trying to build a physical presence, getting into the uncomfortable zone, I think I would never prefer that.
Yeah. So comfort is one thing along with fashion, and more than comfort, not harming your health anywhere.
Exactly.
That is very important. So Yashasvi, I think today we had a good discussion for the younger generations. You feel so?
Yeah, I feel that I had a lot of questions, I had a lot of queries, and I think having this one-on-one conversation, I think there were many there is a, the air is clear for me.
Yeah.
Like I can build my own perspective with the knowledge that I have gained today. I think somewhere or the other I'll be able to educate others also, and I think
Yes.
this is very nice that our styling aspects also are related to our body's needs and comfort.
Yes.
So I think it was a huge plus situation for me that I gained a lot of knowledge about all of this.
Yeah. And I think we should even talk more on the topics which the youngsters of your age and younger to you and little elder to you are facing these days.
Yeah, definitely. I feel we haven't covered a lot of things.
Yes.
So I feel there is so much to talk and discuss, and I think we can definitely take this forward.
Yeah. And they should be tuned up with us for the next episode.
Exactly. Yeah, they should.